Friday morning, time for another episode of Echoes of Fear. I am your co-host, Jason Hewlett.
And I'm Kenton J. Moore.
And last week it was spiders. This week it's Keanu Reeves, right? We're talking about fear of Keanu Reeves.
Haha, yes, we kept it a secret. What we told you last week that we were going to be talking about Chionophobia today, and I've kept this secret even from Jason.
That's
I
right.
only I only told him the name of the phobia. I didn't tell him what the fear is, because this is going to be a very interesting one. I'm very excited about this. Chionophobia comes from the ancient Greek word "chion," which means snow.
Oh,
Chionophobia is the fear of snow and snowy weather.
well, because now it's what? We're middle of the November by now,
Yeah,
ish,
yeah,
almost.
early middle November by the
November.
time this episode
And
comes
the
out.
snow, we always record a little bit ahead of time. So if it hasn't fallen yet, it will fall soon, and it's definitely fallen at higher elevations. Um,
Yes.
and where we live, less so now than say 30 years ago, but when it snows here, it
Mm.
snows here, and it can create lots of problems. The
Yeah.
last few seasons we've had very little snow, but I mean, I remember in 2020, weekend before Halloween, it dropped to minus 35 and snowed like crazy, and it melted by the time Halloween came along. But
Yeah.
and when I was a kid, Halloween, half the time I was wearing my snow jacket over top of my costume. So it was
Oh,
so cold
yes.
and snowy, even on Halloween.
Yes, I remember as a child. I remember, like trying to find a Batman costume that would fit over top of my snowsuit, you know.
Because you needed one,
You needed
like it.
one. Yeah.
And I think like I always remember back. So it was like 20, before we get into the nuts and bolts of this, it was like ten years ago, 2015. It was like January 2015, I think. And it snowed here for like 3 days solid, which it doesn't do so much. It doesn't do all the time, but I mean, it just
Yeah.
literally didn't stop. You were shoveling the driveway 4 or 5 times a day just so you could get out, and then travel was like a nightmare.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even just to get to work would take like 3 times as long because the roads were just like crap. So being afraid of snow and snowfall is a very real thing here in the frozen north.
Yes, absolutely it is. Yeah. And you know why I picked this one and specifically for when this episode is going to come out is that around this time, 1 year ago today, this month, this time that this episode airs, Jason and I were just becoming good friends, and we had been invited to a literary convention in
Yeah.
Enderby, British Columbia, and we chose to carpool. So we took, my parents' SUV because I wasn't too keen on my Jeep being comfortable and good for the ride, so we took the Honda SUV all-wheel drive that had Blizzak good winter tires. And we showed up to this convention, set our tables up, and it was a beautiful morning. And
Beautiful. It was
around
warm. The
the
sun was
sun was
shining. It was
shining.
ideal.
What was it, about 10 or 11 o'clock? And the convention was on until 4. All of a sudden, we look out a window and there's just these fat, giant flakes of snow just pouring from the sky. And we all look at our phones and it's like heavy snowfall warning in our area. And we're like, oh my God, what? And so poor Jason and I, there we are, like 5:30 at night, middle of November, driving from Enderby back to Kamloops through these back roads in an area that is known to be a snow belt.
Yep.
And, like we did what, 20, 25 kilometers an hour
If
through
that.
deep
There was
snow.
times there. It took, I think, the whole drive is an hour and a half. And
Yeah,
it took us an hour and a half to get from Enderby to that main road near Falkland, which is the main highway back home.
right. Yeah,
Like
which is
we
about
were crawling. And that was
less
like
than
what,
halfway.
15, 20 minutes of the drive
Yeah,
in good weather.
yeah.
And we crawled, and there was like vehicles and trucks in the ditch because they were driving like jackasses. And even
Passing
once we
us
got on
and
that
then we'd
main
find them.
highway, it was choppy enough. Like there's bits of ice on the road and stuff. It wasn't really till we got kind of Monty Creek, which is like the last half hour back to Kamloops, that it just rained. That's all it had done.
It rained, yeah. And you remember too, like just before we got back to the highway, where when it transitioned from that thick, heavy snow to that wet, slushy kind of snow. You remember too, like the windshield wipers were almost 3 inches thick with like frozen snow and ice on them, and like the mirrors. Remember, like it was
We pulled
just
over in Falkland at the gas station, had to chip all that stuff off so the wipers would actually work as it was becoming more like rain. And that's a prime example of what can happen where we live. You can start your day off perfectly, and then it just goes to hell
yeah,
in a
yeah.
handbasket really, really fast.
There was a saying that when I first got posted to Victoria, which is the capital of British Columbia, and it's the biggest city on Vancouver Island. When I first got posted there in the Navy, there was a saying that if you don't like the weather, give it 5 minutes. And that sort of applies to most of BC. Like hell, even when you take the Coquihalla Highway, which is like, known, they call it the highway through hell. And there's TV series and all sorts of stuff about it. But there's signs there that say high mountain roads can experience sudden weather changes, right?
Yeah.
Sudden and severe weather changes. So, I
I've
wasn't
had it on the
surprised.
Coke. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I've had it on
No,
the Coke where you're up at the summit and it's like a complete whiteout blizzard. Then you go down that giant ass hill, goes from whiteout blizzard into like tropical rainstorm, to like by the time you get to Hope, it's nothing.
yeah,
Like
just
it's,
sun shining is like what just happened? Yeah.
yeah,
I've
yeah.
like I have a lifetime worth of personal anecdotes about snow and severe weather. So I wasn't surprised when I found out that this was a thing. And we haven't really touched a lot yet on environmental phobias in this season one or two, I think, have we?
No, we haven't. It's all usually been an external. The only environmental phobia would be fear of like the ocean and water and stuff like that. That's as
Yeah,
close as you can
that's
get,
right. As close as we
right?
got, yeah, thalassophobia and stuff like that, yeah. Yeah, so interesting. Like the prevalence, this one is approximate. So there's not a lot of data on this one. It was a little bit hard to find, but there was a Ball State University study in the United States done that found that 10% of Americans suffer a phobia of severe weather, with snow and snowy weather being one of the biggest ones alongside tornadoes and hurricanes, right?
That which makes sense.
Yeah. And of course, exact numbers for snow specifically are difficult to determine because not very many people recognize that it's a phobia and or seek help, right? A lot of people just, think that, oh, this is how you deal with snow and snowy weather. So that kind of forced me to take a bit of an interesting segue and dive into, the why, the seeking to understand, like we're our season motto here. And I found that, what drives Chionophobia is the fear of harm, like fear
Hmm.
of being snowbound, stranded, or suffering harm from the cold, like hypothermia
Or a car accident on
or a car
bad roads,
accident.
right?
Yeah, past experiences with snowy or bad snow conditions, like being trapped in a traffic accident, seeing or suffering or being a part of an avalanche,
Hmm. I
you
could see
know.
that. That'd suck. That's something I
Right?
have no
Yeah.
desire to
Like,
be a part of, right?
so my biological father, my dad, he used to be, he was a helicopter pilot, and he used to do a lot of like heli skiing up in the Canadian Rocky Mountains and stuff, eh? And he had a little 8 millimeter hand cam, and he used to videotape all sorts of stuff, and he'd show me these pictures of these guys skiing down these wild mountain runs up in the Canadian Rockies. And he had like video of an avalanche one time, and it was the first time I've ever seen avalanche footage that isn't like in a documentary or anything like that. And it was frightening, man. Like what a force of nature an avalanche is.
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah. I've written stories about people who've been like backcountry skiers who have been trapped because of an avalanche and all that. And just reading even their accounts, it's like it's terrible. It's terrifying. It'd be the last thing I'd ever want to experience.
Yeah. Yeah, and it got me thinking too again, like one of those things again where I started looking at personal anecdotes in my own history And like our trip to Enderby, with that drive, I hate driving in the snow. You know what I mean? Like if I wake up in the morning and I look outside and I see like snow falling severely, if I was supposed to be working in the office that day, I'll call my boss and be like, "Hey, not coming in, working from home today."
Yeah.
I'm fortunate that I have that option, that my day job allows me to do that. But like where I live, even in great weather conditions, this highway is closed for accidents almost every other day.
Yeah.
In the winter time, if the snow starts to fall, that it's almost assured that there's going to be something, some accident. I don't know how many times I've driven into Kamloops from the farm and, after a rainstorm, and it's like you can count the cars in the ditch. One,
Yeah.
two, three, four.
People
You know,
just don't drive like idiots on that road.
exactly. Go on YouTube and type in snow hits Vancouver
Yeah.
and just watch what happens. And then, like, but for me personally, when it comes to being trapped in snow, the one memory that sticks out above all the others was one of my first jobs after I graduated high school and all that was working in the lumber industry up in the bush north of
Mhm.
Clearwater. I worked with my daughter's grandfather up there. And it was a logging operation, so we were always in the deep wood and in cuts and stuff, doing all these kind of things. And I remember going to use the bathroom one day. I had to go to the use the bathroom, and the my daughter's granddad, his name was Andy. He said, like just be really careful, like avoid trees. Don't go near the trees. And I was like, well, this is a forest. I don't know how you avoid trees, but okay. And I was walking along and I was trying to find a good place to have a pee. And I climbed up onto the top of this like mound of snow. And it just like instantly there was nothing below me. And I fell probably like 8 feet, 9 feet into this. It was like a bush almost, like like branches and stuff that had been piled up before the snow fell. And they'd created a cavity and the snow fell on top of it and it was like this dome, right? So there I am and I'm like on ground, and above me is this network of branches with a perfect circle in the snow and I can see the sky up above. And I mean, I remember being oddly comfortable because it was like an igloo. It was like my own personal little snow fort, and it smelled like pine.
Oh,
And I
that
was
would be
like, this
nice.
is kind of cool, And then I thought, like, oh God, if I destabilize the roof, and it was like 2 feet of snow, if all that came down, I would have been done, right?
Yeah.
But I remember being in there and trying to climb my way back out or find my way back out for probably a good 15 or 20 minutes. But then fortunately, Andy'd come looking for me and found me and was able to help me dig my way out. And I was talking to my daughter about that story, and she had a very similar one at Sun Peaks, which is our local ski hill here. And same thing, her grandpa told her don't go near the trees in the snow. She didn't listen and she fell in and she kind of fell into a little bit of a hole, but when she fell into the hole, all the snow and the tree branches above her let go too.
Oh, geez.
And she literally got buried. And like unlike me, she wasn't in a cozy little open area. She was buried under snow. And she was about 7, I think, 8, and her grandpa ran over and dug her out and stuff. But she's now doesn't like snow at all. She's not like keen to go play in it. When it starts snowing, she's like, well, time to wear a comfy sweater and just
Stay inside.
stay inside,
And
right?
understandably so when you have that kind of experience. Like,
Yeah,
I never used to hate driving in the winter until I had like a accident on black ice that nearly killed me. Like, you know what I mean? Like it was enough. And then it somehow walked away, even though the vehicle was pretty much totaled. Both vehicles were totaled. And I was writing for the paper at the time. So a number of people I knew in the fire department had responded to that accident. And they're like, you should not have survived that.
wow,
Like, you should not have survived that. It's a miracle that you did. But after that, now, like, I no way. Like, I drive the Coke in a sports car and it might take me 8 hours to get home, but I would do it. But now it's just like, nope, no
yeah.
interest. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh, same thing here. Same here, Jason. Like, I used to drive the Coke all the time. And I remember coming up with my kids one time for Christmas with my parents, and it was, that point where the Coquihala's only got one lane at the top
Hmm.
there because there's so much snow and the trucks just can't plow it. And I remember coming up in the pickup truck and we were doing like 30, 40K and it was snowing and I tried to pass a semi truck only to realize that the lane went back to two, and the semi truck didn't let me come back, like come back over. So I got pushed into the bank in the pickup truck, and I just, and it was just white everywhere. That sound, that thumping and
Yeah. Thump,
rushing
thump, thump,
of
thump, thump,
snow
thump.
just kind of plowing over top of your truck. And somehow I managed to steer the truck back onto the highway safely. Like I didn't lose control. I got back onto the road behind the semi truck and everything. And my kids, they always laugh when I tell this story because I did it all with one hand while I was holding a pop. And they're like, you didn't spill a drop. And then I was all scared and I think I tensed up and all that. But maybe 2 kilometers up the highway, I hit a pothole and the pop went all over
Oh.
the. So they always pick on me. They're like, remember that time when we almost crashed and you didn't spill the pop and then you hit a pothole and dumped it everywhere?
That's
But yeah, it like there's so many stories and anecdotes where this kind of thing happens where like again we mentioned it in a previous episode, media sensationalization. In 1996 there was a massive blizzard that hit Vancouver Island. It was just before I moved there to live with my dad. And he was living in Nanaimo, in the north end of Nanaimo, which is a city on the inside of Vancouver Island on the eastern side against the Georgia Strait. And they had 3.5 feet of snow over a 12-hour period, just like massive, massive dump of snow. And it ground the city to an absolute halt for almost 3 or 4 days. My dad and that, the only people that could get around were people who owned snowmobiles or you
Mhm.
could go around on your feet. And my dad was saying that they would walk around and just check on senior citizens because everyone was trapped in their house. Nobody was getting supplies. Power was on and off and on and off and on and off. And you think about like when things like that happen, yeah, no wonder. No
Oh
wonder
yeah.
that Chionophobia is a thing, right?
Yeah, yeah, because you are screwed. Like, we've had it happen here, like in the winter time where you have an ice storm. Remember the ice storm? I think it was 96, might have even been at the same time, New Year's Eve, 1996. Started off as rain, then it became freezing rain, then it became an ice storm, and the whole city shut down. People were like ice skating down the road. When the liquor store downtown started to caught on fire and burn down, the fire department was trying to respond, and the fire trucks sliding sideways down the
Oh
road, and
man.
firefighters having to jump off. Like when it is something that when it happens, it is completely 100% debilitating. There's
Yeah.
nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
And so which is why like so many people in the interior where we still get that kind of weather get upset when the government's telling you to get rid of your wood stove to put in like these water heaters that'll freeze in like -5. It's like no,
Yeah.
we still get days here where there's no power, which means you can't run your propane stove or your furnace, so you need a wood fireplace because at least then you can heat and you can cook
Yeah,
with it still,
exactly. And,
right?
and exactly. And my parents here on our farm, we've got like 5 deep freezes. So, we're pretty much built to withstand that kind of thing, lack of power or any of that. We have a generator that can power the house for, up to a week or so. Like we're prepared for that kind of thing because it happens.
Yeah.
It's a very real threat for us. And like for those of you out there that might be wondering if like how do you know that you have this chionophobia or chionophobia? Like you might act agoraphobic in the wintertime. You won't want to leave your house. People
Mhm.
that as soon as they see any snowfall at all, they're like, well, that's it. I'm a shut in. If you're stockpiling supplies or being obsessed with preparation,
Yeah.
which is exactly what I was just referring to. Like us having 5 deep freezes, it's, weeks worth of food for 3 people. Um, or refusing to live where snow can occur.
Yeah.
You know,
You,
just
Hawaii is your home
Yeah.
24/7, 365 days a year.
If
You
I had
know?
a dollar for every person I know in my life, that's what we call a snowbird.
Yeah.
Where they live up here for the spring and summer, fall, and then as soon as the weather gets cold, they're like, well, going south, and they go
Yeah,
down
our
to
neighbors behind us do
Mexico.
that every year. Like
Yeah.
they leave, they're packing up now, actually. They get ready to head south. They'll be back in April, right? Like
Yeah,
it's
oh
every
yeah.
year.
And it's coming, Jason. It's coming. I mean, today as we record this episode, my nights in at home here are dropping to only +2 degrees, plus
Yeah.
1 degrees. Like
Even here in
I've,
the valley, it's starting to get down to three or
yeah,
four,
yeah.
as we record this. Yeah, but by the time this runs, it'll be below zero.
Oh, for
Like,
sure. Yeah, we
yeah,
might even have snow.
we might even, I hope not, because this is the week I'll be down filming in Harrison Hot Springs and I got to ride the highway of hell to get down there and back.
Well, then let's knock on wood. Yep. Done,
That it's
done.
all okay.
Yeah, and I mean, and again too, like I think with this phobia, out of all the ones that we've spoken about, I think this is one of the ones where it's very, very real. The threat of it, like of severe weather, especially now with climate change and everything and stuff that's occurring. And you can't deny that the climate is changing. I hate the people that talk about, well, there's no such thing as climate change or global warming. It's like we literally just spoke at the beginning of this episode about remembering a time in our life. And you and I aren't very old, Jason.
Nope.
We're not the old we're not the old boys in the club yet.
Nope. Not
Yet.
yet.
But we can remember a time when we would trick or treat in October,
And
in
have
the snow.
snowsuits on. Yeah.
And here we are releasing this episode in mid-November. And anecdotally, I cannot remember the last time I had a white Christmas up here in Kamloops.
No, it's pretty rare. Like we might have, there's one maybe in 2020 where there was some snow, but a skiff. But I mean, I remember every Christmas of my youth, and unless we were down at the coast at my grandparents in Chilliwack, where there was just at least a foot or two of snow on the ground. Like
Right.
without fail, Christmas was always white
Yeah.
until about the 90s, mid 90s, then it
Mid
started to
90s or
change.
so. Yeah. Yeah. And I don't remember storms being as severe as they are these days. I don't remember them being as unpredictable or severe as they are now when I was a kid, you
No,
know.
they aren't. This is the first I've even told my wife this past summer, which was pretty mild, but we had the worst wind that I could ever remember through the summer. Like it just blew. Like
Oh
Kamloops is
yeah.
always a windy place, but it was hardcore wind where plants would be blowing over out of their pots and stuff like that. And I'm like, I don't remember that ever.
Yeah.
And not once,
Yeah.
but a whole bunch of times. Like,
Yeah, and even all the 20 something years I lived in Victoria, it was very rare we would get snow, and then now it's almost like clockwork that you'll get it for a couple days at least. Even like this year, 2025, I spent February at my ex-wife's house taking care of my kids because she was deployed overseas, and when I was down there, we had, a horrible snowstorm, and we were all stuck in our house for 3 or so days. Thankfully,
yeah,
she was on wood heat.
you need that. You need that. You need
Yeah,
that. But
yeah.
no,
No,
I
no.
agree.
Get a heat pump so when your power goes out, it doesn't work.
Yeah. And you freeze anyways.
Yeah,
On that note, folks,
yeah. Stay
there's a
warm. Don't freeze.
stay warm. Don't fret. Drive carefully. Ice your driveway. All that kind of stuff. And we'll be back next week with some more fear for you on Friday morning. So until then, I'm Jason Hewlett.
And I am Kenton J. Moore.
To quote Hicks from Aliens, stay frosty.
Stay frosty.